Before you take another sip of whatever beverage is sitting in front of you right now, I need you to stop and listen to what I'm about to tell you, because this information could be the difference between continuing to suffer with prostate symptoms and finally getting your life back. Are you constantly planning every activity around where the nearest bathroom is located? Do you wake up multiple times every night with that urgent need to urinate, only to stand there with a weak, frustrating stream that takes forever to empty your bladder? You're doing everything your doctor told you to do. You're taking the medications they prescribed. You're trying to eat a healthier diet. So why are your symptoms getting worse instead of better? I'm Dr. James Whittaker, a board-certified physician with over 20 years of clinical experience. And today I'm going to reveal the truth that most doctors never discuss with their patients. The beverage you're drinking right now, something you probably think is perfectly healthy or at least harmless, could be the single biggest factor inflaming your prostate and destroying your quality of life. I see men over 60 making these exact mistakes every single day in my practice, unknowingly sabotaging their own treatment and making their benign prostatic hyperplasia symptoms dramatically worse with every sip they take. This video is structured very specifically to give you actionable information you can implement immediately. First, I'm going to walk you through the 5 absolute worst drinks for prostate health, the beverages that are actively inflaming your prostate gland, irritating your bladder, and guaranteeing those miserable nighttime bathroom trips. Then, I'm going to give you the 5 best drinks that can actually help reduce inflammation, protect your prostate cells from damage, and give you back the freedom and quality of life you've been missing. Before we get into this critical information, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss any of my evidence-based health content. And I want you to drop a comment below, letting me know what country you're watching from, because I love connecting with viewers from around the world who are taking control of their health through informed decision-making. Let me start by telling you about Robert, a 67-year-old retired engineer who came to see me about 8 months ago, absolutely desperate for help with his prostate symptoms. Robert was getting up 6 to 8 times every night to urinate. His sleep was completely destroyed. He was exhausted all day long. His relationship with his wife was suffering because he was irritable and tired. And he had basically stopped doing social activities because he was always worried about being too far from a bathroom. Robert was on 2 different prostate medications, an alpha blocker to relax the prostate muscle and a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor to shrink the prostate. But despite taking these medications faithfully for over a year, his symptoms were actually getting worse rather than better. His urologist had suggested that the next step would be surgical intervention, but Robert really wanted to avoid surgery if at all possible, so he came to me asking if there was anything else he could try. I spent about 45 minutes doing a comprehensive review of Robert's diet and lifestyle habits, and what I discovered was shocking, but unfortunately very typical of what I see in my practice. Robert was unknowingly consuming multiple beverages throughout every single day that were directly counteracting his medications and severely aggravating his prostate inflammation. He started every morning with a large mug of strong black coffee. Then he'd have another cup mid-morning and often a third cup in the early afternoon because he was so tired from not sleeping. He drank diet soda throughout the day, thinking this was a healthy choice because it didn't have sugar or calories. He had a glass of orange juice with breakfast every morning because he'd always heard that vitamin C was important for health. And most evenings, Robert would have 2 or 3 beers while watching television because this was his way of relaxing after a stressful day. When I explained to Robert that every single one of these beverages was actively making his prostate symptoms worse, he was shocked and honestly somewhat skeptical. But he was desperate enough that he agreed to completely eliminate these drinks and replace them with the prostate-friendly alternatives I'm going to share with you today. Within 2 weeks, Robert noticed significant improvement in his symptoms. Within 6 weeks, he was only getting up twice per night instead of 6 to 8 times. And at the 3-month mark, Robert's international prostate symptom score had improved from 26, which is in the severe range, down to 11, which is in the mild range. And this was just from changing his beverage choices while continuing the same medications he'd been taking all along. Now let's dive into the specific drinks you need to eliminate or drastically reduce starting today if you want to get control of your prostate symptoms. The first category of problematic beverages is alcoholic drinks, particularly beer. And I need to explain exactly why alcohol is so devastating for prostate health, because most men don't understand the multiple mechanisms by which alcohol worsens BPH symptoms. The moment alcohol enters your system, it acts as a powerful diuretic, meaning it signals your kidneys to produce more urine and to produce it quickly. For a man with an enlarged prostate that's already creating bladder outlet obstruction, this sudden increase in urine production creates immediate and often unbearable urgency. You get that sensation that you absolutely must urinate right now, and when you have an enlarged prostate blocking the flow, this urgency combined with obstruction is absolutely miserable. But the diuretic effect is just the beginning of alcohol's assault on your prostate. Alcohol is also a direct irritant to the bladder lining and the urethral lining, causing inflammation and increased sensitivity in tissues that are already irritated from the pressure of your enlarged prostate. Now let me explain why beer is particularly problematic compared to other forms of alcohol. Beer contains significant amounts of hops, and hops are rich in compounds called phytoestrogens, which are plant-based substances that can mimic estrogen in your body. For men, especially men over 60, the balance between testosterone and estrogen is critical for prostate health, and anything that shifts this balance toward more estrogen activity can promote prostate growth and inflammation. The phytoestrogens in beer can bind to estrogen receptors in your prostate tissue and stimulate proliferation of prostate cells, literally making your prostate grow larger with chronic consumption. Beyond the hops issue, beer also represents a large volume of liquid that you're consuming relatively quickly, and this volume effect alone creates problems for men with BPH. When you drink 16 ounces of beer, that's 16 ounces of fluid that your bladder is going to have to process and eliminate, and with an obstructed outflow from your enlarged prostate, this creates a backup situation where your bladder becomes overfilled and distended. The timing of alcohol consumption is absolutely critical, and this is where most men make their biggest mistake. Drinking any alcoholic beverage within 3 to 4 hours of bedtime virtually guarantees that you'll be up multiple times during the night to urinate. Your body needs time to process the alcohol, to produce and eliminate the excess urine that alcohol generates, and to clear the irritant effects from your system. If you have a beer at 8 p.m. and try to go to sleep at 10 p.m., you're literally scheduling your own sleep disruption. Now, I'm not telling you that you can never have an alcoholic drink, but if you have BPH symptoms and you choose to drink alcohol, you need to do it early in the day. You need to limit the quantity to one drink maximum. You need to avoid beer specifically and choose wine or spirits instead if you're going to drink at all. And you need to dramatically increase your water intake in the hours following alcohol consumption to dilute the irritant effects and help your body clear the alcohol more quickly. The second category of problematic beverages is caffeinated drinks, particularly coffee. And I want you to really understand the vicious cycle that caffeine creates for men with prostate problems. Many men tell me they absolutely cannot function without their morning coffee. And when I ask them why they need coffee so badly, they say it's because they're exhausted. And when I ask why they're exhausted, they tell me it's because they were up all night urinating. Do you see the problem here? You're drinking caffeine because you're tired from not sleeping, but the caffeine is one of the main reasons you're not sleeping, so you're trapped in a self-perpetuating cycle of exhaustion. Caffeine affects your urinary system through multiple mechanisms, and every single one of these mechanisms is problematic for men with BPH. First, caffeine is a diuretic, meaning it increases urine production by your kidneys. Second, caffeine is a bladder irritant that directly inflames the bladder lining and makes it more sensitive and reactive. Third, and this is the mechanism that most men don't know about, caffeine is a smooth muscle stimulant that causes the muscles in your bladder wall to contract and spasm. When your bladder muscle is contracting due to caffeine stimulation, you get that urgent gotta go right now feeling even when your bladder isn't actually full. This is called bladder irritability, and it's one of the most frustrating symptoms that men with BPH experience. Now here's the part that really bothers me as a physician. If you're taking an alpha blocker medication like tamsulosin or doxazosin, these drugs work by relaxing the smooth muscle in your prostate and bladder neck to improve urine flow. But when you drink coffee or other caffeinated beverages, the caffeine is stimulating and contracting those exact same smooth muscles that your medication is trying to relax. You are literally fighting against your own treatment with every cup of coffee you drink. The caffeine is canceling out the beneficial effects of your medication, and then you and your doctor wonder why the medication isn't working as well as it should. The rule I give my patients is absolutely non-negotiable. No caffeine consumption after noon. And ideally, you should eliminate or dramatically reduce caffeine consumption altogether if you have moderate to severe BPH symptoms. Your body needs at least 6 to 8 hours to clear caffeine from your system. So having your last caffeinated beverage at noon gives you a fighting chance of having it mostly cleared before you try to sleep at night. The third category of problematic beverages is sugary sodas and sweetened fruit juices, and these drinks are devastating for prostate health through a completely different mechanism than alcohol or caffeine. The problem here is inflammation, and I need you to understand that benign prostatic hyperplasia and prostatitis are fundamentally inflammatory conditions. Your prostate is chronically inflamed, and this inflammation causes the gland to swell and enlarge, compressing your urethra and creating all those miserable urinary symptoms you're experiencing. Anything that increases systemic inflammation in your body is going to make your prostate inflammation worse, and high sugar consumption is one of the most powerful drivers of inflammation. When you drink a can of soda or a glass of apple juice or orange juice, you're flooding your bloodstream with a massive amount of rapidly absorbed sugar. This causes a spike in your blood glucose level, and this glucose spike triggers an inflammatory cascade throughout your entire body. Your immune system responds to this sugar surge by releasing inflammatory cytokines and other chemical messengers that promote inflammation in tissues throughout your body, and your prostate is particularly vulnerable to this inflammatory assault. But the sugar-inflammation connection goes even deeper than this acute response to a sugar spike. Chronic high sugar consumption leads to increased visceral fat accumulation, that dangerous belly fat that accumulates around your internal organs. And this visceral fat is not just inert storage tissue. Visceral fat is metabolically active, meaning it's constantly producing and releasing inflammatory chemicals, including interleukin-6, tumor necrosis factor alpha, and C-reactive protein. These inflammatory compounds circulate through your bloodstream and create chronic systemic inflammation that affects every organ system, including your prostate. So every time you drink a sugary beverage, you're accomplishing two things. You're creating an immediate inflammatory spike from the sugar itself, and you're contributing to the accumulation of visceral fat that creates ongoing chronic inflammation. This is why men with significant belly fat tend to have worse BPH symptoms than leaner men. It's not just about the weight, it's about the inflammatory chemicals being pumped out by that visceral fat tissue. The fourth category of problematic beverages is energy drinks. And if sugary soda is bad for your prostate, energy drinks are absolutely catastrophic. Energy drinks represent a perfect storm of everything that's bad for prostate health, all combined into one beverage. First, they contain massive amounts of caffeine, typically 200 to 300 milligrams per serving, compared to about 90 milligrams in a cup of coffee. This extreme caffeine dose creates severe bladder irritation and muscle stimulation that virtually guarantees urinary urgency and frequency. Second, energy drinks contain astronomical amounts of sugar, often 50 to 60 grams per bottle, creating that intense inflammatory response I just described. Third, energy drinks contain a cocktail of other stimulant compounds, including taurine, guarana, and various herbal extracts, and many of these compounds act as additional bladder irritants and diuretics. The combination of all these ingredients creates a chemical assault on your urinary system that is absolutely incompatible with prostate health. There is zero justification for any man over 60 with BPH symptoms to consume energy drinks, period. These beverages provide no health benefit whatsoever, and they create guaranteed misery for your urinary symptoms. The fifth and final category of problematic beverages is whole milk and high-fat dairy drinks. And this is the one that surprises most men because they've always thought of milk as a healthy, wholesome food. The research linking high-fat dairy consumption to prostate problems is extensive and concerning. Multiple large epidemiological studies have found that men who consume the most whole milk and high-fat dairy products have significantly higher rates of prostate enlargement and more aggressive prostate issues compared to men who consume less dairy or who choose low-fat options. The mechanism involves two primary factors: saturated fat, and growth hormones. The saturated fat in whole milk promotes inflammation throughout your body, including in your prostate tissue. But even more concerning are the growth factors naturally present in milk. Milk is designed by nature to make a baby calf grow as rapidly as possible into a 1,000-pound adult bull. And to accomplish this, milk contains high concentrations of growth factors including insulin, like growth factor 1 or IGF-1. When you consume milk, these growth factors are absorbed into your bloodstream and circulate throughout your body, and they can bind to receptors on your prostate cells and stimulate cellular proliferation. Now think about this for a moment. As a man over 60 with an enlarged prostate, your fundamental problem is that your prostate is growing too much. The cells are proliferating when they shouldn't be. Does it really make sense to be consuming a beverage that's loaded with powerful growth factors that tell your cells to multiply? You're literally drinking a substance that's designed to promote rapid growth and wondering why your prostate keeps growing. Now, I want to be clear that the strongest association in the research is with high-fat dairy, particularly whole milk. Fermented dairy products like yogurt and kefir, which I'll discuss in a few minutes, appear to have different and actually beneficial effects on prostate health. But that daily glass of whole milk or that cream in your coffee, these are dietary habits that you need to reconsider if you're serious about managing your prostate symptoms. Now we've covered the 5 worst beverages for prostate health, and I know some of you are feeling discouraged or even angry right now because I've just told you to eliminate or drastically reduce drinks that you consume every day and genuinely enjoy. But this is actually the good news part of the video because I'm not just taking things away from you, I'm going to give you specific alternatives that aren't just less harmful, they're actually therapeutic for your prostate. These next 5 beverages can actively reduce inflammation, protect your prostate cells from damage, improve your urinary symptoms, and help you get your life back. So stay with me, because the solutions are just as important as understanding the problems. The first prostate-friendly beverage is pure water, and I know this sounds almost too simple to be useful, but proper hydration is absolutely fundamental to prostate health, and the vast majority of men with BPH are hydrating incorrectly. Here's what happens when you don't drink enough water throughout the day. Your urine becomes concentrated, dark in color, and acidic. This concentrated urine is extremely irritating to your already inflamed bladder lining and your prostate. It literally burns and inflames these sensitive tissues with every pass through your urinary system. The solution is dilution. You want your urine to be pale yellow in color, dilute, and much less irritating to your tissues. However, and this is critical, you cannot just chug large amounts of water whenever you think about it, and you absolutely cannot drink significant amounts of water in the evening. The key to prostate-friendly hydration is consistent, small-volume intake throughout the day with a strict evening cutoff. Here's the specific protocol I recommend. Keep a water bottle with you throughout the day and take small sips constantly, maybe 2 to 3 ounces every 30 minutes or so. This provides steady hydration without overwhelming your bladder with large volumes all at once. Then, and this is the life-changing part, implement what I call a hydration curfew. You must stop drinking all fluids, not just water, but all beverages, 2 to 3 hours before bedtime. This gives your body time to process the fluid you've consumed, produce the urine, and empty your bladder before you try to sleep. This single strategy of front-loading your hydration earlier in the day and cutting off fluid intake in the evening can dramatically reduce nighttime urination frequency. Many of my patients tell me this one change gave them their first full night of sleep in years. The second prostate-friendly beverage is green tea, and I know some of you are confused right now because I just spent several minutes explaining why caffeine is terrible for your prostate. Green tea does contain caffeine, but it contains much less than coffee, typically about 25 to 35 milligrams per cup, compared to 90 to 100 milligrams in coffee. More importantly, green tea contains powerful therapeutic compounds that provide benefits that far outweigh the small amount of caffeine. Specifically, green tea is extremely rich in antioxidants called catechins, and the most powerful and well-studied of these catechins is epigallocatechin gallate, or EGCG. This compound has been extensively researched for its effects on prostate health, and the results are remarkable. EGCG has potent anti-inflammatory properties, meaning it actively reduces inflammation in prostate tissue. It also has anti-proliferative effects, meaning it helps slow down the excessive cell growth that characterizes prostate enlargement. Multiple studies have shown that men who regularly consume green tea have lower rates of prostate problems and better urinary function compared to non-tea drinkers. When you replace your morning coffee with green tea, you're accomplishing several beneficial things simultaneously. You're dramatically reducing your caffeine intake from about 300 milligrams per day if you're drinking 3 cups of coffee down to about 75 milligrams per day if you're drinking 3 cups of green tea. You're eliminating the severe bladder irritation that coffee causes, and you're replacing a problematic beverage with a therapeutic one that actively fights inflammation and protects your prostate cells. The timing is important, though. I recommend limiting green tea consumption to the morning and early afternoon, with your last cup no later than 2 or 3 p.m. to ensure the caffeine is cleared from your system before bedtime. The third prostate-friendly beverage is tomato juice, and the therapeutic compound here is lycopene, which is the antioxidant that gives tomatoes their red color. Lycopene has been extensively studied for its protective effects on prostate health, and the research is compelling. Lycopene accumulates preferentially in prostate tissue, where it provides powerful antioxidant protection against cellular damage. Men with higher dietary intake of lycopene have been shown in multiple studies to have lower rates of prostate problems and better prostate health markers. Now, here's something fascinating about lycopene. Unlike most nutrients, where fresh is better than processed, lycopene is actually more bioavailable from cooked and processed tomato products than from raw tomatoes. The heat processing breaks down the cell walls and releases the lycopene, making it much easier for your body to absorb. This means that tomato juice, tomato paste, and tomato sauce are actually better sources of usable lycopene than fresh raw tomatoes. There's one more critical factor for maximizing lycopene absorption. Lycopene is fat-soluble, meaning it needs to be consumed with some dietary fat in order to be properly absorbed from your digestive tract into your bloodstream. If you drink tomato juice by itself on an empty stomach, most of that valuable lycopene will pass right through your system without being absorbed. The solution is to always consume tomato juice with a meal that contains healthy fats, or to have a handful of nuts or some avocado along with your tomato juice. The fat provides the vehicle for lycopene absorption. One important caution: many commercial tomato juices are extremely high in sodium, containing 600 to 800 milligrams per serving. This much sodium is problematic for blood pressure and cardiovascular health, so you need to look for low-sodium versions that contain less than 100 milligrams of sodium per serving. The fourth prostate-friendly beverage is pomegranate juice, and this is one of the most exciting areas of prostate health research in recent years. Pomegranate juice is extraordinarily rich in unique antioxidants, including polycollagens and ellagic acid, that have remarkable effects on prostate health. The clinical research on pomegranate juice for prostate health is actually quite impressive. Multiple studies have shown that regular consumption of pomegranate juice can slow the rate of PSA increase in men with prostate concerns. PSA, or prostate-specific antigen, is a blood marker that reflects prostate inflammation and activity, and a rising PSA generally indicates worsening prostate problems. The fact that pomegranate juice can slow this rise is remarkable and suggests real therapeutic benefit at the cellular level. The mechanism involves reduction of oxidative stress and inflammation in prostate tissue, which helps calm the inflammatory processes that drive prostate enlargement. I typically recommend 8 ounces of pure pomegranate juice daily, consumed in the morning or early afternoon, since it does contain natural sugars that provide energy and should be consumed when you're active rather than before bed. It's absolutely critical to choose 100% pomegranate juice, not pomegranate juice cocktail or blend, which is mostly apple juice and sugar with just a tiny amount of pomegranate for marketing purposes. The fifth and most powerful prostate-friendly beverage is kefir and other probiotic-rich fermented dairy drinks. And this is where we come full circle, because I told you earlier that whole milk was one of the worst drinks for prostate health. Yet now I'm telling you that fermented milk products are among the best. The fermentation process completely transforms milk from a problematic food into a therapeutic one. During fermentation, beneficial bacteria consume most of the lactose sugar in milk and produce beneficial compounds including B vitamins, vitamin K2, and various bioactive peptides. More importantly, fermentation creates billions of live probiotic bacteria, and these probiotics are absolutely critical for prostate health through a mechanism that very few men understand. It's called the gut-prostate axis, and it refers to the powerful connection between the health of your digestive system and the health of your prostate. Here's what's happening. When your gut microbiome is unhealthy, meaning you have an overgrowth of harmful bacteria and insufficient beneficial bacteria, your gut lining becomes inflamed and permeable. This condition, sometimes called leaky gut, allows bacterial toxins and inflammatory compounds to leak from your intestines into your bloodstream. These inflammatory compounds then circulate throughout your body and contribute to inflammation in distant tissues, including your prostate. Chronic gut inflammation literally radiates inflammation to your prostate. When you consume kefir or other probiotic-rich foods, you're introducing billions of beneficial bacteria that colonize your digestive tract, crowd out harmful bacteria, repair your gut lining, and dramatically reduce gut inflammation. By healing your gut, you're reducing the inflammatory burden on your entire body, including your prostate. This is why addressing gut health is one of the most powerful long-term strategies for managing prostate problems. I recommend consuming 6 to 8 ounces of plain kefir every morning, preferably on a relatively empty stomach, so the beneficial bacteria can colonize your digestive tract effectively without competing with food for space and resources. Now let me come back to Robert's story and tell you about his results after implementing these beverage changes. Robert completely eliminated coffee, beer, soda, and whole milk from his diet. He replaced his morning coffee with 2 cups of green tea. He started drinking 8 ounces of pomegranate juice every morning with breakfast. He had 8 ounces of low-sodium tomato juice several times per week. He drank plain kefir every morning. He maintained excellent hydration with water throughout the day, but implemented a strict hydration curfew, stopping all fluid intake 3 hours before bed. Within 2 weeks, Robert noticed he was sleeping better and getting up less frequently at night. Within 6 weeks, his daytime urinary urgency had improved dramatically, and he felt comfortable going out for several hours without constantly worrying about bathroom access. At the 3-month mark, Robert's international prostate symptom score had improved from 26 down to 11, representing about a 60% improvement in his symptoms. His quality of life had been transformed. His relationship with his wife had improved because he wasn't exhausted and irritable anymore. And he had resumed social activities and hobbies that he'd abandoned because of his prostate symptoms. The most remarkable thing about Robert's case is that he achieved these dramatic improvements without changing his medications, without surgery, simply by changing what he was drinking. Now, Robert's results are excellent, but they're not unusual. I see similar outcomes regularly in patients who take these beverage recommendations seriously and implement them consistently. The key is that you have to actually do this. You have to commit to eliminating the problematic beverages and replacing them with the therapeutic ones. And you have to maintain these changes long-term because your prostate health is not something you fix once and then forget about. It requires ongoing attention and maintenance. I want you to visualize something right now. In your left hand is a glass containing beer, coffee, soda, or whole milk. That glass represents continued suffering, more sleepless nights, constant bathroom urgency, weak urine stream, ongoing frustration, and diminished quality of life. In your right hand is a glass containing green tea, pomegranate juice, tomato juice, or kefir. That glass represents taking control of your health, better sleep, improved urinary function, reduced inflammation, and getting your life back. The choice is entirely yours, and you make that choice multiple times every single day with every beverage you consume. Starting tomorrow morning, I want you to make different choices. Your new life of better prostate health and improved quality of life is waiting for you, but you have to take that first step. Before we end this video, I want you to do 3 things for me. First, give this video a thumbs up if you found this information valuable, because it helps the YouTube algorithm share this content with other men who desperately need this information. Second, subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos where I'll continue sharing evidence-based health strategies that you can actually implement to improve your life. Third, and this is really important, share this video with any other man you know who's struggling with prostate symptoms. So many men suffer in silence with these problems because they're embarrassed to talk about urinary and prostate issues. But the information in this video could genuinely change someone's life. Sharing this video with a friend or family member who needs it is not just a nice gesture. It could be the thing that finally gives them relief from symptoms they've been suffering with for years. Drop a comment below letting me know what country you're watching from and whether you've been making any of these beverage mistakes that I discussed today. I read every comment, and I love hearing from viewers about how this information has helped them. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of your health, and I'll see you in the next video.